The Pacific Northwest has a way of hiding its secrets, sometimes in dense forests, sometimes in deep waters. But secrets always find a way to surface, just like the body of Dr. Mark Reynolds did that misty morning off Bayview's rocky coast. My name's Elena Rodriguez. 15 years on the force, 10 of them here in this small town where everybody knows everybody, or thinks they do. Reynolds was a marine biologist, worked at the local oceanographic research station, respected, quiet. The kind of guy who knew more about sea life than human conversation. When the Coast Guard pulled him from the water, something didn't feel right. Experienced swimmers don't just drown, especially not Mark Reynolds. His wetsuit was intact, no signs of struggle. But there was this strange discoloration around his neck, subtle, almost invisible unless you knew exactly what to look for. Sarah Chen from Forensics confirmed what I suspected. Microscopic algae residue, she told me, her voice professional but excited. Not native to these waters, and there's something else, trace amounts of a compound I've never seen before. The research station was a pristine building of glass and steel overlooking the Pacific. Dr. Elizabeth Hartley, Reynolds' research partner, seemed more annoyed by my questions than grieving. She kept adjusting her glasses, her fingers tapping an impatient rhythm on her lab notebook. Mark was working on a revolutionary marine ecosystem study, she explained. Something that could change how we understand oceanic microorganisms. But scientists don't get murdered over academic papers. Something else was brewing beneath the surface, and I was going to find out what. The tide was going out, revealing secrets buried in the sand. And in Bayview, secrets have a way of cutting like broken shells. The thing about small towns is they're like tide pools. On the surface, everything looks calm. But dig a little deeper and you'll find entire ecosystems of secrets. I spent the next day digging through Mark Reynolds' personal files. His office at the research station looked like a marine biologist's dream, walls covered in ocean charts, shelves lined with preserved marine specimens, but something was off. His computer's search history had been partially wiped, and there were encrypted files that would take our tech team weeks to crack. Sarah Chen called me with an update that made my cop instincts tingle. That algae compound, it's not just rare, it's engineered. Someone created this in a lab, not nature. Reynolds' research partner, Dr. Hartley, was looking less like a grieving colleague and more like a person with something to hide. I tracked down her grant proposals, millions in funding from a company called Ocean Tech Pharmaceuticals. The same company that had been buying up waterfront property along the Oregon coast for the past 2 years. My partner, Jack Morgan, pulled some old records. "Check this out," he said, spreading documents across the conference room table. Ocean Tech has been quietly purchasing fishing rights and marine research sites. But they're not just buying. They're shutting down local operations. A phone record caught my eye. 3 calls between Reynolds and a burner phone the night before his death. The last call lasted exactly 47 seconds. When I returned to the research station to follow up, Dr. Hartley was gone. Her office cleaned out, not a trace left behind. Just a single file folder dropped on her desk, marked with a single black waterproof marker, Project Poseidon. I've been a detective long enough to know when a case is about to break wide open. This wasn't just about a dead marine biologist anymore. This was about something much bigger lurking beneath the surface. And in Bayview, the tide was about to turn. Some cases whisper. This one was starting to scream. Jack and I spent the night tracking Ocean Tech's paper trail. The company wasn't just buying marine research sites, they were systematically purchasing every independent marine biology lab along the Pacific Northwest coast. Small operations, family-owned research centers that had been around for generations, suddenly selling out. "Look at this," Jack said, highlighting financial records. Each sale includes a non-disclosure agreement with penalties that would bankrupt these families if they talked. But about what? A late-night call from an unexpected source changed everything. Sarah Chen from the forensics lab sounded terrified. "Meet me at the old lighthouse pier. Alone, and don't tell anyone." Mistake number 1. I went alone. Mistake number 2. I didn't check who else might be watching. The lighthouse pier was empty when I arrived, no Sarah. Just the sound of waves and a manila envelope tucked beneath a loose wooden plank. Inside were research documents that made my blood run cold. Project Poseidon wasn't just a research project, it was a weapon. A biological agent designed to manipulate marine ecosystems, engineered algae that could potentially collapse entire fishing industries, destroy marine life, and create unprecedented environmental chaos. Dr. Reynolds hadn't been killed for discovering the project. He'd been killed because he was about to expose it. Before I could process the documents, a car's headlights cut through the darkness. Not a police cruiser, not Jack's truck. Something sleek, professional. My hand moved to my service weapon, but I knew I was already too late. "Detective Rodriguez," a voice called from the darkness. "We need to talk about what you found. The ocean is good at keeping secrets, but some secrets are worth dying for. And some are worth killing to protect. You don't survive 15 years in law enforcement without developing a sixth sense." The voice that called my name wasn't a threat, it was a warning. "Doctor." Elizabeth Hartley stepped into the lighthouse pier's dim light, looking nothing like the composed researcher I'd met earlier. Her lab coat was replaced by a weathered sailing jacket, and she carried a waterproof briefcase that looked heavier than it should. "They'll kill me after I help you," she said. "No introduction needed. But someone has to tell the truth about Project Poseidon." The documents she brought made the ones I'd found look like a children's picture book. Detailed maps of marine ecosystems, genetic modification reports, financial projections that showed billions at stake. Ocean Tech wasn't just developing a biological weapon, they were planning to weaponize entire ocean systems. Mark discovered they were planning to create artificial marine dead zones, Hartley explained. Regions where they could control fishing, shipping, entire economic ecosystems. The engineered algae was just the first step, a sound behind us, soft, professional. The kind of movement someone trained would make. "We need to move," I whispered. But Hartley was already one step ahead, sliding a USB drive into my hand. "Everything is here, but be careful. They have people everywhere." "Who's they?" Before I could ask, the first shot rang out. "Some cases start with a body." This one was about to leave a lot more behind. The hunt was just beginning. Survival isn't about being the strongest, it's about being the most adaptable. The USB drive burned in my pocket like a live wire. Jack was waiting in our unmarked car 2 miles down the coast, but I knew making contact would be suicide right now. Whoever was hunting us had resources that went way beyond local law enforcement. "Doctor." Hartley moved like someone who'd been running for a long time. We ducked through back alleys of Bayview, using every blind spot and shadow. Her sailing jacket concealed what looked like a military-grade GPS tracker, the kind used for deep-sea research, not civilian navigation. Ocean Tech isn't just a pharmaceutical company, she whispered as we navigated through a fish processing warehouse. They're a front for something much larger. The marine ecosystem manipulation is just the beginning. Think global food control, climate engineering. A burner phone in her hand displayed fragments of data, satellite images, genetic sequencing charts, financial transfers that crossed continents. The scale was impossible to comprehend. Mark was going to blow the whistle, Hartley continued, but someone inside knew. Someone who could track our research, our communications. The warehouse's back door exploded inward. Professional entry. Military precision, get down. I shouted, drawing my service weapon, but Dr. Hartley was already moving, slipping a waterproof envelope into a hidden compartment in the warehouse wall, a fail-safe, a dead man's switch. If anything happens to me, she said, her eyes meeting mine with a razor's edge of determination, everything goes public. The first tactical team member entered. Black gear, no identifying marks, not local, not Ocean Tech security. Something much bigger was hunting us, and in Bayview, the tide was about to turn into a tsunami of secrets. In my years of detective work, I'd learned one fundamental truth: the most dangerous people aren't the ones with guns. They're the ones with spreadsheets and government connections. Jack found me at a safe house we'd used during a drug trafficking case 2 years back. His face told me everything before he spoke. The USB drive is encrypted with something I've never seen before. Military-grade protection, but the source code looks different. Dr. Hartley's final words kept echoing in my mind. A fail-safe. A dead man's switch hidden in that warehouse wall. But first, we needed to crack the USB. I know someone, I said, not official, off the grid. Maria Rodriguez, a no relation, ran a cybersecurity firm out of a converted fishing boat. Ex-NSA discharged under circumstances nobody talks about. If anyone could crack this encryption, she could. Her floating office smelled of salt, old electronics, and 3-day-old coffee. Maria plugged in the USB, her fingers dancing across multiple screens like a concert pianist. This isn't just encryption, she muttered. This is a biological data map. Genetic sequencing mixed with maritime navigation routes. Someone's tracking something bigger than marine life. The screens filled with complex diagrams, ocean currents, genetic markers. Financial transfer routes that crossed international waters. Project Poseidon isn't just about controlling ecosystems, Maria said, her voice dropping to a whisper. It's about predicting and manipulating global food systems through marine infrastructure. A notification popped up. Someone was trying to trace our location. We've got company, Jack said, pulling his service weapon. The boat's electronic systems began to fail. One by one, systematic, controlled, someone knew exactly where we were. And they were coming. The hunt was no longer about a murdered marine biologist. We were now the target,